Welcome to the Bill Cartwright Show. Our special guest today is shooting coach extraordinaire, Mr. Bob Thate. Bob, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. It's great to see you again, Coach Cartwright. It's been a while.
You know, I'm always really curious, and I've been fortunate enough to do a few of these now. Tell me a little bit about where you grew up, and I want to know about your mom and dad.
Okay. I grew up in, I was up north in Atascadero, Paso Robles. We moved down here to Pomona for a little bit, and then moved into LA area when I was like in the second grade.
Yeah.
Raised in LA by my dad. He was a professional baseball and basketball player, played for the House of David, hit 368 in the AAA before they had to go to the Army. Otherwise, he'd have been in the major leagues, I thought. At least that's what everybody told me after the fact. And so he came back and they got married. He was a cutting meat as a profession, and been in LA from second grade on ever since. Great people. My mom's still going. She's 101.
Amazing.
That. I know. She can't shoot anymore though.
Hey, on that note, tell me about, I want to know what kind of kid you were in, tell me what high school you went, and tell me what kind of kid you were in high school.
I went to Franklin High School in LA, a section called Highland Park. I was I loved athletics, loved sports. I played baseball, basketball, and football in junior high, and wanted to play football, coach. And my dad, he broke his arm playing football in high school, so he said you can't. So then I got into more stronger into basketball, and I think that was there was none of this stuff, no Zooms and no computers. You go to the park from 9 a.m. till 9 p.m. till they kicked you off the playground. So I just played ball all the time and got pretty good at basketball. Made all city and led the city in scoring in LA and boom, boom, boom. And not nothing like you did, but had a good high school career. But I was super motivated. Just a very, very dedicated. I'm going to work out. I think I worked out 3 hours a day for 12 straight years from the time I was in high school until I quit playing in Europe. So,
hey, tell me who had a big influence on you in high school? Did you have one person to work with? Was it a coach? Was it somebody who you could hone your skills?
The biggest influence was, Bill Bogdanoff was my first coach in high school basketball, and then Jack Dallin was my varsity coach. And those two guys, they guided me, kept me straight, got me to do the right thing, grew me up, as a human being. I had a temper a little bit, and I remember I was maybe the best player in LA City that year, and I got mad one day at practice and kicked the ball and shattered the fire extinguisher outlet. So my coach said, "We're going to be really good with you, great with you, or good without you. So you decide." And that got me right. So, but those two guys, and then I had a good friend, Richard Moorhead, who we grew up together, and he's more stable than me. But I just think all I cared about was playing, and made sure I go to school and do good in class so I could keep playing. And I knew the importance of an education from my mom and dad. They went through high school, but they knew that I needed more than that by the time I got out of high school. And I was lucky I got a scholarship and got to play, and went overseas and played for 5 years and came back and met people, as good people like you, man.
Well, tell me about that. Okay, so you were a really good player in high school. So now you have to move on to college.
Right.
So what are you thinking about? I know what school you ended up going to. Why'd you go there? And what were some of the other options?
All right. Back then it was the Pac-8. That was it. And but I was very attached. I'm a homebody, so when Stanford would call, or Washington or Oregon, I just say, or Michigan call, I'd say, no, I'm going to either go to SC or UCLA. And I you know, I loved UCLA. You know, I followed Wooden and followed Hazard and Goodrich. They were right before me, and UCLA and SC were the two schools that recruited me the hardest. And my visit, when I made my visit to UCLA, Gail Goodrich was my host, and
Wow.
and I know. So, well, he was the city player of the year too, and he led the city in scoring, so I thought we had something in common. But I always wanted to go to UCLA, and then all SC just got on me real hard. But more than anything, my mom and dad thought SC football was like Johnny McKay, and they were really great in football. And they kept saying, maybe you should just go to SC. Everybody but my high school coach was saying SC, and my buddy. But I think what turned it is I'm like a Crusader Rabbit kind of guy, and a coach that was recruiting me, the assistant Bill Mulligan. I don't know if you remember him. He told me that I was going to make SC basketball like SC football, you know, like put it on the map, and I was the guy, and blah blah blah. And so I like that motivation. So, and they promised, believe this is Coach Jess Hill, the AD, and Forrest Tuga, the guy that was retiring as the coach. They both promised me that Bill Mulligan was going to be the head coach, and Mulligan was my guy. So, anyhow, the guy they retired, but then they hired a guy named Bob Boyd, and that changed the whole world. You know, he brought in his guys, and so I stayed there 1 year under him, and then I left. But my daughter Taylor gives me such a bad time not going to UCLA and playing for Wooden, but you know how life is. You make choices and you can't take them back, and who knows it'd be any better or worse. And it worked out great. I went to a small college, Occidental, and made All-American 2 years, and got drafted by the Lakers and got cut and went to France, played for 4 years, and led the country in scoring 2 years in a row, and still hold the record for scoring. That means I shot a lot, Coach. and then came back and started coaching at Pepperdine, that's where I met you. I was a young buck coach, and you were all world up at USF.
Tell me about that real quick. Your experience when you were overseas. How was that? A lot different? Did you like it? Did you like being over there?
Yeah, but I once I got there, I loved it. It was hard to leave home, but my high school girlfriend, who we dated all through high school and college, we got married. You know, back in the day, you could get married when you're younger. So we got married. She came with me, so that made it easier because I was with somebody, you know, all the time. But yeah, I love the culture. You learning the language, the food, traveling some, getting to go to all the different countries. Before I started with my team in France, I was on a tour with a man named Jim McGregor, and we traveled Italy, Greece, Albania, you know, Yugoslavia when it was Yugoslavia, and it was a great experience. You know, I love, you know, I couldn't believe somebody's paying me money to play basketball, but and on top of it, I got to see things that, you know, I never would have seen if I hadn't been able to make a basket once in a while. I loved it. It was really good.
So how did you know when you wanted to? So why'd you leave? You were there for 5 years. Did you feel like you could play longer?
Oh yeah, I was almost 29, almost, yeah, and I had really, really bad tendonitis in my right knee, so bad that I needed to practice to be good. And my 5th year, I couldn't practice because it hurt so bad. And this was back in '75. And I ended up, when I'm with you, Coach, when I was with you with the Nets, that's when I ruptured that tendon, the patella tendon. It was destroyed, so I couldn't play. And the doctor that examined me when I heard it, when I was with the Nets, he said, "Oh, we just would have cleaned that out and you'd have kept playing, but no problem." But back in '75, they didn't have those, you know, that kind of advancements like they do now. But I would have played till they kicked me out of the country. They wanted me to naturalize and become French, and I didn't do that. But a lot of guys were doing that. But anyhow, no, it wasn't because I wanted to. It's like I know all I want to do is play basketball. And when I stopped, I thought, okay, now what am I going to do now? You know, what? So I tried business for about 6 months and was going nuts. And lucky me, I knew a guy named Dan Yoakum, who was the assistant AD at Pepperdine, and he knew Gary Colson. And And Tarkanian, who I worked out with when he was at Pasadena City College, Tarkanian offered me a graduate assistant job, and so did Colson, and I went to Pepperdine and was there for 3 years. That's when I started coaching, and that's what I loved it. The next best thing to playing was coaching, because it just changed. Instead of making yourself good, you're trying to make players good. Not I get all my gratification from seeing somebody get better. That's I'm too old to not tell the truth, and that's sincere. It's just always been fun to. Once I started coaching, I was at Pepperdine coaching. I still could play, like once in a while, and we were playing, and I could still handle it. And I, believe it or not, jumped real good and shot it. And the players were trying to say, how did you make that move? And how did you make that shot? Or what? So I broke down everything that I did, practicing the shooting mechanics and everything. And I started teaching the kids at Pepperdine that too. That was part of my job. So, and for the 13 years I was in college, I was, like, X's and O's and recruiting, but a lot of player development, Scotty Brooks.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Hey, talk about the different teams you were at when you were in college.
the different teams we played against.
No. The different teams that you worked at. Or did you
when I was in
stay at one
France?
spot? How long were you at Pepperdine?
Oh, I was in I'm sorry. I thought you meant back over there. I was at Pepperdine for 3 years. And then Colson, we were rocking. In fact, USF, if you remember, Coach, we were in second place and had a chance to get close to you guys. And Colson just decided, because his best buddy was the president. They had an argument, and he said, "I'm quitting." So when he left, I left, and I went to Loyola Marymount University with Ed Gorgian and was there for 4 years. And then I had a little girl, Taylor, and decided it's time to not be gone all the time. So I went into business with a 3M, a company, for a couple of years, and was home all the time. And then it hit me again. I realized that, you got to make yourself happy as well as everybody else around you. So, and then I went back and coached at UCI for 4 years with Bill Mulligan. We had really good players in big time, Johnny Rogers and Wayne Ingolstadt and Todd Murray. We had a ball team. And then after that, I went to Long Beach State for 3 years with Seth Greenberg.
Yeah.
The guy on TV, who was a hell of a coach. And that's when I love those guys, and we were really good. In fact, I think the biggest turnaround on shooting in my life, because Seth was an East Coast guy from, I think, Pittsburgh or somewhere. And he didn't believe in, he didn't want to do that stuff. He says, we're going to be tough and, blah, blah. And so we were 11 and 18 the first year, and God's will, we went to Canada on a tour, and we were up there 20 days. And I said, give me the guys for, 20 minutes each a day. So I worked with every one of them. And that next season we won 18 and 11. And the next year we were 24 and 8 and won the Big West tournament. And the team shooting percentage went from 38 to 53 in 2 years. So that's how I, made me happy that all the guys, Brian Russell and Lucius Harris, and the guys that were on that team that were really good. So, but coaching's fun. I got sort of painted into the corner, that shooting thing, but because I used to do all the other stuff too. But it's good. I've been really lucky, very fortunate. God's blessed me.
So talk about your first NBA job.
First NBA job. Okay, it wasn't a job, but Brian Russell was with the Lakers. He was at Long Beach State when I was there, and he was towards the end of his career, and he was trying to make the Lakers. He made them, but he couldn't make a shot. And he called me and said, "Tate, can you come on up to the facility and help me, work on my shot?" Well, he could. I told Seth that he was the best shooter on the team, better than Lucius Harris, and he didn't think that was. But anyhow, so Brian, I went up there and helped him for about 2 weeks, and everything came back because he had like 3 years of it, a base. And he went from 13% to 44%, and everybody thought I was a miracle worker, which was not true at all. It was just he put all that time in. And about 2 months into the season, Luke Walton came up to me and said, can you help me? Because he was a rookie who couldn't make a shot, and he knew that if he couldn't make a shot, he wasn't going to stay in the league. As good as, smart player and whatnot. So I worked with him, and he was very dedicated, and he got a lot better. And Shaq asked me to help him. I helped him for about 3 weeks, and he said, "Nah, I've had enough of this." we got along great, but he didn't want to get in there every day for 45 minutes and do it. So anyhow, John Welsh, you know John, he was in Memphis. Am I talking too much about everything, or?
I don't know.
Okay, so at the end of the season, Memphis with Gary Colson, he was with Jerry West there. They were working out in Irvine. He invited me to come see it, and I did. And John Welsh and Lionel Hollins were the assistants, and they said, "Are you the guy that taught Walton how to shoot?" And I said, "Well, I've helped him, yeah." He says, "Can you teach us?" So I started showing them what I do and what I believe in. They said, "Whoa, can we bring you to Memphis?" So that summer I went to Memphis, and believe it or not, worked with White Chocolate, John, but more than what was Mike Miller. He was rookie of the year, and everybody thought he was a great shooter. And I told John, he's a good shooter already. And but I worked with him, and then John spoke to Lawrence Frank about me and what he thought I could do. And he asked me to go work with Jason Collins out in UCLA. And I worked with him for a couple months. I mean, about a month. And it's the only guy I ever told my daughter, says, "I don't know if I can get this guy right." But then it started clicking. And so anyhow, Lawrence called me and said, "Jason wants you to come back and work with him during the season. Will you do it?" And I said, "Yeah." So I flew back and forth. We were together. And I was helping him with the Nets. That's my first full time where a team was paying me. And Mitch Kupchak said he was going to hire me probably with the Lakers, but that's when they blew that team up with Shaq and all that. But whatever, it was great, back in New Jersey. And I worked with Ninad and Christie, who was a really big time player, I thought, and Jason. And then after that first year part time, they asked me to come back full time, and that's when Jason Kidd grabbed me one day, and I got to be reasonably good friends with Jason through his son, TJ. And Jason and I were talking one day, and towards the, I said, "Jason, you're 33 or something." I said, when you lose a step, they're not going to guard you 3-point line, but if you can make threes, they're going to have to jam you still, so you can still drive and get your team involved. And about 3 days later, he came and says, "Tate, I want you to work with me because I want to make the team better." It was, kids' goal was just to win games, which was important, obviously. So it was the Nets, and I was there 4 years. And when Jason got traded to Dallas, I got traded back to Newport Beach. And then I worked with Mike Miller and Luke and Jason and some other guys for about 3 or 4 years. And then Dave Severance called me and asked me to come up because Blake Griffin needed a guy to work with. And so I worked with Blake one day, and they hired me, and I was with Blake Griffin for 4 years. And then at the end of that, my contract ran out, and Ed Stefanski, who was a GM of vice president of Memphis, asked me to come work in Memphis, and I've been there for 6 years now. Back and forth. They've been super nice to me, Coach. Super nice. I'll give you a real quick Mike Miller story. You ready? Sure. If you want to hear it. We're in China. The Clippers are playing the Miami Heat exhibitions, and we're at some reception, and Miller's standing there with me and his wife, and some guy comes up to him and says, "Hey, this is my shooting coach, Bob Thate." And the guy laughed. He said, "You don't need a shooting coach." He says, "He got me 9." And that was the end of the conversation. So like 2 days later, I saw him. I said, "What do you mean I got you 9?" He says, "Tate, I was 38% before I met you, and I was 47 after from the 3-point line. So you got me 9 points. So that counts." But then Doc Rivers always said, "You can't take any credit for Mike Miller." I never took credit for anybody, but he said, no, Miller doesn't count. But he was a baller, tough guy.
And nice. Give me the most common, if there is such thing, shooting problem. What is the most common problem that
I say balance. There's lots of stuff. I'm all straight line, and how I break it down to like Blake said, it's like you steal a car and take all the parts off it and start back over. I just don't. Stefanski always said, "You want me to tweak this guy?" I can't do that, because I figure if you're going to put time in, you might as well do it right, mechanically. So it takes a lot of time. But I think just in general, if somebody, some coach said, "What do you want to do?" I'd say you got to put some X's on the floor, jump up and down, land in the same spot work on your jump shot. So you're always landing on the same spot. And when you finish, make sure your hands above your head and in line with the rim. I'd say if you could do those two things, you're going to make more shots than if you didn't do either one. So I'd say balance, and then making sure you got a straight line on you. You notice how a lot of guys in the NBA now, they hold their hand in line with the rim. When they finish, it's sort of like posing. So, and that's a good thing to do, that along with balance. So you're sort of straight up and down. So I would say that if I was teaching the kid, that's what I'd say.
Yeah. And it's just interesting that, the guys that's made the most threes of all time, Curry, he kills the role because he's so off balance and and he has no finish.
No.
And,
no, but you're 100% right. It's funny that the guys like us, excluding Mike Miller, everybody I've worked with in the NBA and high school and college, they've been sort of broken. Like Jason Kidd's shot, was broken. He just had terrible mechanics. His arm was weird and everything. And so was Blake. Luke was the same way. But you're right. But I'll bet you anything. Curry's just got a phenomenal touch. He shot a quadrillion shots.
Yeah.
I agree with you 100% that he's got. I mean, Klay Thompson has better mechanics than him. As far as like if you put in a book. But Curry was probably in the first grade throwing balls of paper into the trash can 15 feet away. But I think if you practice anything, no matter how bad the mechanics, you're going to get better. But if you do it right, then you're going to get as good as you. I don't know if you remember this, but you and I were shooting, and you were saying, Tate, I shot 57% as a senior in college. What would you do with me? I said, well, if you'd work with me, to shot 68, and you just turn around and walked away. So, but I do believe in what I do, but you got to be dedicated. That's one thing that Luke and Jason and Mike and Clay all have in common. And Brian, they bought in and they keep it. I'm working with a guy named Kyle Anderson right now on FaceTime, but it's really hard to do when you're not in person. But Memphis is cool. They're good people.
Yeah, I do think that's interesting that basketball is probably the only sport that doesn't have a shooting coach. I mean, baseball has a hitting coach.
Yeah.
And there's a quarterback coach, but there's no shooting coach, and that's all we do. So it is kind of bizarre that we don't have
I know
a shooting coach. So it's just very, very interesting thinking.
I 100%. When I was doing high school, I coached high school for 10 years as well after college. And one of my coaches was always saying, Guy, I just don't believe, that the NBA doesn't have shooting coaches. And I agree. It's, just automatic. I mean, there are some teams with them, but like out of 30 teams, I bet you there's not 10 that do. And you can always help, even if you don't want to, if they don't want to break it down. I mean, when Jaren Jackson one day, he was missing shots, and he came up to me and says, if I lose this, I'm coming after you. But it's surprising. But I see more guys. I think there were like three. There was Dave Hoopla, myself, and Chip England. Those were the three guys in the NBA when I was up until 5 years ago in Memphis. You're right. They should hire him.
Well, but the other side of that, and let me ask you, or I should ask you, how many good shooting coaches are there?
That's a good question. I don't know. I don't know. I think the only reason that this is how it worked with me, because like all the kids at at college, they saw guys I was working with get better, so they saw it. You know what I'm saying? And then when I was with Brian Russell, Luke saw him get way better, so he said, "Well, that works." So, and the same thing with Jason Kidd, with Denard Christie getting better and Jason Collins getting better. He said, "Tate, I want some of that." It's I think it's hard because honestly, if it's I mean, I think I know enough about shooting, but at the same time, like if my grandson wants to become a ball player and there's some guy says, I'll teach you how to shoot, I'd sure want to know what he's doing because, I don't know. I know Chip's really good, but nobody I tell anybody everything. I'll tell, I've or I've had about 6 or 8 guys in the NBA work with me, video guys or assistant coaches, and try and teach them what I know so that they can carry the torch. So I don't know if there's a lot, but
No,
I don't think there's a lot.
I don't think there is. I was fortunate enough to. Do you remember Dr. Tom Amberry?
Absolutely, he was down here.
So yes, Dr. Tom, he was a really good teacher.
Right.
But I've met other guys who were free throw champs, and they're terrible teachers.
Yeah.
So what you do, it's not easy.
You got with patience, and if it's like people when they see me do it, I'll stand there, like with Blake Griffin. We'd stand for every summer, every day, 5 days a week for 18 straight weeks. We were in the gym for an hour and a half to 2 hours, and I'm just standing there. What I do, I break all the mechanics down from where your feet, how to hold it. Where do your fingers go on the ball? It's not like you can just grab the ball. Your your shooting forefinger has to be in the seam directly below the valve, the air valve, and your left thumbs has to be in the same seam. And then when you do straight lines, then I break it down into, you got to get the ball a correct start. Then you got to get the ball up to your forehead, proper area. And then you got to get your balance by sticking your butt out. And then the last one is you just get your arm going up. I believe in shooting the ball super high. It takes a lot of time to master those. Me and Blake would, I just stand there and I would, like, if we shot 500 shots, he had to do 500 correct shots. It wasn't like, let's get a number in. I remember there's 2 NBA guys that came to me one summer, wanted me to work with them. And they were just, sort of going after it and just wanting to play and do whatever. I said, look, if you want to sweat, if you just want to sweat, go get somebody else. If you want to try and get better, then I'll help you. Because until you get really good, it's more mental. It's a tough mental thing to do, to focus and concentrate on one mechanic. I have a guy do one mechanic at a time. Then when he's done with that, he'll go to his forehead, and then he'll go to his balance, and then he'll go to his arm. And then eventually he'll go off the dribble, and then we'll put in, spin moves and, but always mechanics. So it's a lot of work, but you have to, people would always say, or my kids would say, Dad, how do you stand there and do that all the time? I said, well, I guess I have a simple mind. I guess I can do it. I just stand there and make sure they're doing right. Because it's a good feeling. I don't know if you remember, I remember a kid, one game we were playing at the Meadowlands, and he made 5 threes in a row at the third quarter. And he ran in after the game and he was slapping everybody's hands. And I saw that look in his eye like he was 7 years old, man, at Christmas. And I just thought that's made me real happy. When you see somebody work real hard and get really good and be willing to, I remember he told me once, I checked my ego at the door, Tate, and whatever you got, you just give it to me. Kids is the best. They were all great.
So tell me what you're doing now.
What I'm doing a lot of is watching my grandkids, but I haven't gone to Memphis in 2 years because of the pandemic. And then I got a little sick and the doctor didn't want me to travel, which I'm getting better. And so I help Kyle on FaceTime probably 5 days a week. And the rest of the time I'm driving down to Ladera Ranch and helping my daughters with their kids and trying to help them out. God's will, see what happens in the future. But I might go back full time next year, or start traveling again.
Well, talk about your daughters a little bit.
The 2 best little girls that aren't little anymore, man.
No, they're not little. They're older now, right?
I know. One's 38, one's 36. Taylor's got 2 boys, Colin, 6-year-old, and Shane's 4.5, and then Allie's got 2 girls, and they're just sweethearts. They grew up with, how that goes with basketball, and they were all they ride their tricycles around the gym at night when the kids were scrimmaging, the players were scrimmaging in college, and they go on the games, and then when I went to high school, they rode the bus for 10 years, and and they go to the camp and dribble and practice, and do all that stuff. And then lucky me in the NBA, I had them come back to New Jersey, and they stayed about a week, got to see a bunch of games, and then went to Boston on a road trip. And they're just good kids. Like they did a really nice article a long time ago in a local paper. And I loved it. The only reason I loved it is because my daughters were quoted, and my youngest one kept saying, I can't shoot, but I can teach it, you know. And my oldest one, Taylor, says, my dad's like Peter Pan. He believes anything's possible. You can't, you know, no matter what, he believes you're going to get better. So they've just been just great to me, and just good kid, great hearts. One's a teacher and one's a hairstylist, makeup artist, but just good hearts, man. You know that, Coach. That's all that matters. If your kids turn out with good hearts, despite all the things we mess up with. So I could have been luckier. Could have been more fortunate. And their grandkids are great too. It's really cool I went and saw Colin play his first basketball game about 2 weeks ago, and that was fun. Although 6 years old, they're not ready. You know, his dad wants me to teach him how to shoot, and Colin wants to play video games. So
Of
I don't think
course.
they're ready for it. Yeah, the girls, but they're magical. They made my life, man. You know, when all the things I was lucky enough to do, coaching and playing, and when you look back, all I think about is my family, my daughters, and how those memories. You know what I mean? It's all that matters. You know.
Well, Bob, thank you so much for being on. You were amazing. And I maybe at one point in time, because I'm still doing some stuff for USF, we could catch up a little bit.
I'd
You
love
can
to.
always check us out, our USF Dons. We're doing well this year.
Are you doing good? I know UCLA's playing pretty good. USF's good too.
Yeah, we're doing great. We're doing
Good.
great. I'd be very curious to hear some of your thoughts.
I'd love to. I'll watch them on next time I see them on TV. I'll watch them.
Yeah.
And then they're not like you guys were. If anybody out there remembers Coach Cartwright's teams, man, they were #1 in the nation like 3 straight years. They were just unbelievable.
Yeah, we had great starts. Not too good at finishes though.
That's true. That's true. But not only Tom Brady finishes great all the time, right? No, everybody else is human. I think Brady sold his soul to somebody. I think. I don't know. I was thinking maybe you should make a comeback. Why not? Post up and shoot the fall away. Yeah. Thanks for having me on, Coach. I had a great
Bob,
time.
thank you so much. You're great. And I get down to LA. We're gonna have to hang out a little bit.
I love it, man. I want you to know you're my best. When everybody says who was your best friend in the NBA, it was Bill Cartwright. Always. You're the man.